Welcome everybody to the Alternative F1 podcast powered by Verge Magazine. We are back at it again. I hope you haven't missed us. Myself, Matthew Connell, back with Audrey Dixon as always. And hey, guess what? We got a good buddy, a friend of the show back, Melissa Nathoo. Hello.
So good to see you guys. So excited to be back on as well.
Absolutely.
The gang is back together.
We're all up in this room, still zooming, but nevertheless, this country is, slowly opening back as we count down to Silverstone. Exciting things are going down. But before we say, and talk about all these exciting things that are going down, of course, we have to thank our partners, Natural Barber Co. It's free of synthetics, petrochemicals, and other harmful ingredients that irritate sensitive skin. Even the good, now back at Real Madrid, footballer Gareth Bale even calls it his go-to hair product. And yes, for this show, and always, I use it for my hair as well, and especially on this podcast. So shop now, get 15% off, free next day delivery in the UK when you use the code ALTSPORT15. There's even a referral link in the bio for a little bit of extra sauce off. Visit naturalbubble.co and get some hella fresh hair. Now let's get stuck into it. Things are exciting. A lot is going on. The world, or at least the UK, needs another sport to focus on. So, hey, guess what? Forget the Euros. Melissa, we are now counting down to Silverstone. How hyped are you?
Oh my God, you're right. Everyone wants to put the football behind us. But oh my God, we are into a race weekend and it is the home British Grand Prix. And it is just, it's one of the best races on the calendar, isn't it? There isn't a single driver on that grid who will say it isn't one of their favorites. Silverstone is such a fast track. We've got a new format. It's just an exciting time.
It absolutely is. And Dre, just how excited are you to get your cheeky little face and get all the selfies going and, showing the world that we are going to be back at Silverstone? How hyped are you?
We are going to be in full stunt mode. We're going to be taking pictures. We're going to be doing a lot of special things that we're going to be doing with Heineken over the weekend. We're really excited to be there. I'm excited. Well, it's the actual last race that we actually got to physically go to. And also coincidentally, it's the actual first race that Matt and myself met. So it's all coming full circle.
It absolutely is. And that'll be the last time I see Dre too. I'm going to be like, hey, hey, Melissa, how's it going, dude? Melissa, it's been very exciting. We will get stuck into all things Silverstone a little deeper further down in the show. First and foremost, I think we got to touch upon I think it is surprising news that even poor Lando Norris got caught up in the shenanigans post Euros. Coming to you first, Dre. We spoke a lot about what has been going down post Euros, and when you thought it couldn't be enough, the hooligans, the yubs, even pick on our poor Lando Norris, stole his one of one Richard Mille watch as he was getting back into his McLaren. How do we even begin to process this? I'm hoping that this is one of these moments that a teaching moment, and actually the culture of the country when it comes to sport, football in particular, it's not the same. Racing fans are completely different. So I can't tar all British fans the same way. It's something that is inherent with football. Obviously Matt and myself are massive football fans, and it's just something that actually just has to change, because at the end of the day is that, you want to fly the flag for your country and actually be proud, act right and act with some type of class. And, you with the behaviors that has happened is actually maybe costing, us the World Cup in 10 years time. So it's just so it's, it's a teaching moment, and hopefully they can learn. Football fans can actually learn from rugby, F1 fans, so forth, with how to act and how to behave. Melissa, I think it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Lando has had a pretty solid season so far with podiums at Italy, Monaco, and Austria. You've had the pleasure, and we will get stuck into this for sure very soon. You've had a pleasure to start to get to know these F1 drivers a lot better from having been down to Baku. Do you get the sense that, a lot goes on in the world of F1 and sport as being superstars, being watched every day? Do you feel like Lando is the kind of racer that will, be able to disrupt herself quite comfortably? And just your thoughts on the, unfortunate news of what went down?
Yeah, I mean, it's a horrible thing to happen to anyone, but we're hearing about it because it happened to someone like Lando Norris. And it just gives football fans in England such a bad name all around the world because he is who he is and everyone knows who Lando Norris is. And yeah, like you said, it could cost the World Cup. It's, Lando, I know he put out a statement and he said he was obviously shaken by it, but he's getting his head back in the game and focusing on this weekend. So I do believe that he will be able to, how can you shake off something like that? It's a horrible thing to happen, but I think he'll be focused for this weekend. I mean, what a stupid thing to do anyway. It's a one of a kind watch. Like, you can't sell that anyway. Like, it's stupid in the first place. And then to just shake someone up like that, regardless of who they are, is just a horrible, horrible thing. And like you say, it ties every football fan with a bad name, even though it's not all fans. But like you said, there's a culture within football that you maybe don't find in other sports of this kind of behavior, and something really does need to be done.
Absolutely. Well, we've definitely seen that there was a lot going on, a lot of even players' families getting involved in the shenanigans, but nevertheless, football is now on the back burner. Not only, it's almost great in a sense that we have, I'm happy for Lando. There's almost, I hope he gets time to process that event and that moment and, mentally can find a way just to, naturally flush that out. But what better way to find a way to get focused in your home Grand Prix, which is absolutely awesome. Of course, we even have the Tokyo 2020 Olympics happening in 2021. Like all other great sports, the mega year delay is a thing. But nevertheless, Melissa, let's get stuck into what has been going on since we last spoke. Because of course, you have been absolutely grafting away in the movie cinema world, and we've been hyped to see that you're a lot more kind of opportunities are happening now. The world is opening up. But not only that, Formula One presenter Melissa Nathoo, what's up? How fun was that? You went down to Baku. Sadly, it was the race that Lewis Hamilton, the magic brake sauce button.
What a race.
Sent him flying. What a race. What a day. What a weekend. Melissa, come on, fill us in. How was it?
I know. I can't believe since I last spoke to you guys that I've joined the F1 presenting team. Like, it's an actual dream come true. I genuinely did cry when they told me because I wanted it for so long. And it's wonderful to see that F1 are bringing more people in. Like, there's me. I know there's another girl called Ariana Bravo who I've seen. Who I
love
think you guys
Ariana.
know.
Yes.
Like,
awesome.
I'm really happy to see more women like being brought
Absolutely.
in. And we had the Hamilton report come out, which, about more diversity and stuff. And it's so needed. It's so needed. I really hope it brings more fans to the sport, because it is an exciting one. And yeah, I got to go to Baku for my first race, and it was just an incredible experience because, like we said, what a race. Yes, Lewis did kind of crash out on the restart, but we just got a phenomenal race the whole way through. It was an unexpected result, and it genuinely reinvigorated people's love for F1. And that's just what it needs. And that's why I'm so excited about this coming weekend at Silverstone with the sprint qualifying, because it's something new. It's something different. I know not all fans are going to be for it, are looking forward to it. Plenty are, but if we don't try these things, then we don't know how they're going to pan out. So yeah, it's been a really exciting time, and this will be my second race that I'm covering for them. So fingers crossed it continues.
Absolutely. Well, the content's been great. And like, myself and Dre, we were just super hyped. And, directly to you as well. We were just like, holy, just want to be like, what? This is awesome. And it's just so great that, there are more. It's just, first and foremost, it's just great to see friends, get in there and get involved. Dre, F1 is obviously doing very great. Like Melissa's mentioned, the Hamilton report has been a very important bit of documentation as far as where, F1 is at the moment. But also, if it certainly feels like a lot of what we had spoke about going into the season just more diversity, more faces, more more spectrum of gender, more spectrum, and race and everything. So it's a great time. I feel like it's a great time that F1 is, actively, albeit in many sports, it has to be step by step. We're seeing positive changes here.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how together the country was over the last few weeks, and that everyone was rooting and for the team, and everyone, it was such a happy place, and I think that F1 actually had started being honest, like obviously bringing new people like us in, to be able to experience races and see what it's like behind the scenes and all those things, but so they've already started that job, which I always salute them for. But I think there's more work to be done now, which is like obviously fantastic that Melissa's been added to part of the team, and Ariana, and that's the reason why we started this show, is because we wanted to get new fans, new presenters, new opportunities, more people from different backgrounds, more women involved in the sport, and because at the end of the day is that the more people involved, the more colorful it is, the more exciting it is, and you add something new to it. If it remained what it was before, it's something that just dies out, and those who are against it are just gonna have to get used to it, because Melissa and us are here to stay.
Absolutely.
See, this is it. This is exciting. I've got to say, like, it's definitely, despite how Formula One definitely has, it's difficult because of, the kind of the pandemic that's still kind of going on, but it seems like it's going off, or we just decided it's going off. I don't know anymore. But nevertheless, Melissa, how did it go down? So what was the kind of the scheduling, the kind of structure to your day, as far as leaving merry old England and getting yourself across to Baku? What was the logistics like? How was prep? When was it go time as far as being at the track? Because it's fun being down at the paddock. It's fun being around the team garages. When I've had the pleasure of, through motorsport with Dre, with Dave Lorca, we've been down to different races. You get so caught up in the spectacle and you want to absorb it. You want to see their faces. You just love watching the teams working on what they're doing. Even if they're just washing tires, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. So what was it like, Vanessa, for you getting out there? And yeah, when was it the green light for you?
You're right. Even any little thing that they're doing, I still get super excited by it. I hope that never goes away as well. Like, when you get so used to doing things, like I interview celebrities and you kind of get used to it. I really hope my excitement for F1 doesn't go away. I don't think it will. But it kind of all kicks off on like a Wednesday. That's the travel day. So I will be heading up to Silverstone shortly after we record this. And yeah, Wednesday is a travel day. We actually all went on a chartered flight to Baku. So we were on there.
Dre loves that. That's a bit of Dre.
Love it. I love a bit of chartered flights.
Not a private jet, let me say, but a chartered flight. So it was all F1 personnel, F1 teams. There were some drivers.
Melissa, regular people ain't on that flight.
No,
that's all that matters. And that's all that matters.
I still count myself as a regular person. So I was on there. There was like George Russell I saw, like when we were waiting to board, Lando, like lots of the team drivers. I'm sure the drivers were up in like first class. But hey, we were treated very well. The hotel in Baku was literally like a 2-minute walk to the track. I mean, as we know, Silverstone, you can't stay really that close, apart from maybe Whittlebury Hall. I think that's the only hotel that's really that close, but there aren't. Otherwise, you stay in Milton Keynes. Even we're staying in Milton Keynes. But Baku, so close. Like literally, I look out my window and I'm overlooking the street circuit, and it was just amazing. And yeah, unfortunately, obviously at the moment, like we said, with COVID, we're not allowed out into the city. So it is literally track, hotel. But hey, I was more than happy with that. Like that's what I went for. So I got plenty of paddock and track time. And then yeah, from Thursday, it all kicks off. Thursday is obviously media day. So we are, we'll have our production meetings in the morning, and we film the weekend warm-up show on the Thursday, and do driver interviews because they obviously are doing all their press on that day. Friday is also another really busy day. But again, it's going to be really different. I know everything's changing for Silverstone, but this was how it was in Baku. Friday is another really busy day. Saturday, we do interviews with the drivers after FP2 or after qualifying. God, even I'm forgetting now, but there's a lot of interviews, which you guys obviously see, which go out on the channels. And Sunday is actually a more chilled day up until kind of after the race, I would say. We do a pre-race show, which is live. And I had Daniel Kvyat, who I was interviewing for that one. And then the post-race show after. I actually, you know what? We watch the actual race itself in the office, like you're at the track. So I was like, I know, because you have to, like, you want commentary, you want it to be able to see what's going on around the whole thing. Yeah. So, but I was like, at one point I was like, guys, I have to go and see some actual action. So I went back to the hotel and I went up to the roof so that I could see over the track. And it was just as like Lance Stroll had crashed. So the cars were going around behind the safety car, but I just wanted to see some on-track action, which it's hard when you're in the paddock to see that, because once the race starts, you can't go through, you know, we're not allowed to go onto the pit wall or watch anything or anything like that. So actually it's hard to see the race in person when you're there. So I've managed to find a little way, but yeah, I then came back and then we do the post-race show. And that was where I was running after Sebastian Vettel after he made it to the podium as he was on the way to the press conference. And that's it. Like, you have to kind of grab them while you've got a chance. Everyone wants to talk to them, especially if they're on the podium, and especially with a race like that. So it was all a bit of a whirlwind, but a great whirlwind. And then, yeah, we flew back on the Monday and into self-isolation.
Of course, the very important self-isolation. Well, I think that's an interesting thing, you know, that maybe not a lot of F1 fans really realize is how busy a Thursday really is. You know, we've went down, I remember the Montreal Grand Prix, working with Shell and Ferrari and having the awesome Charles Leclerc, but back when Vettel was there, he'd ride up on his bike and come join us. And it's really like a very hectic day, especially for us lot who do media. You know, even this is quite an interesting moment. I think I've mentioned on the show before at Montreal. It's very well run. This is not to throw anyone under the bus, but it was so kind of, you know, there's not really anything going on the track. Obviously, said like it's all media and interviews and activations and whatnot. Our Uber driver managed to accidentally find his way onto the actual track. So we were on the actual Montreal Grand Prix track on a straight in an Uber, and then doing a 180 when we realized we are actually on the wrong this is the wrong road, quite frankly. Amazing how things can happen, but that's almost how, like, you know, nothing's on the track. As soon as Friday is on, it goes absolutely crazy. But nevertheless, we have to look forward to Silverstone. It's very, very exciting. Dre, it feels like tides are kind of turning a little bit. It seems like the Mercedes, the Lewis domination has kind of, would you say it is Red Bull making improvements, or is it Mercedes taking a step back?
It's difficult for me to remain impartial. So that's why Melissa does what she does, and I'm here in this room because I'm obviously a big Mercedes Lewis fan. So for me, I'm obviously focused more so on you know what the hell's going on with Mercedes, and it just seems, I don't know whether, being honest, it looks like they've not completely focused on challenging this year, more so looking towards next year, maybe because of the changes. Might be an excuse, but it just seems like there's the changing of the guard is kind of quick, you know, too quick for my liking personally, because as a sport, obviously we want it to be competitive. We don't want someone to be just in front and just it to be a procession. It has been more interesting because obviously you've seen Lando be able to get podiums, you know, but I do want Lewis to actually challenge. So I do think there is a changing of the guard. There's something obviously we're not going to find out. It's more so Melissa. I'll be watching her to get the scoop on this, to find out exactly what is going on with Mercedes, because the drop off is huge. Where they're not even competitive now. So that's troubling to all Mercedes fans. That's with me being as impartial as I possibly can be.
I think it's an exciting time for fans, right, Melissa? I don't know what you have seen and witnessed down at the paddocks and within the F1 media circles. Of course, for us Brits, we're thinking, oh man, come on, Lewis, let's break the record for World Championships, and then you can just do whatever happens after that. But what do you think are the general feelings? Do you feel like the F1 world are getting excited for the potential change and Max's time is finally coming? How do you see it?
I mean, I know fans are so happy to see someone else at the top of the championship, and we can't discount how amazingly Max is driving this season. Like, he's just matured. Like, in past seasons, we've seen he can lose his head a bit. He's been a bit hot-headed, and he actually seems so much more mature and calm as a driver this season, even when you hear him over team radio, and his experience, everything. Like, yeah, he could win it this year. I mean, obviously he's leading, but we've still got a lot of races to go. And I know people are like discounting, Lewis, and they're like, oh, well, it's too late now, like he's fallen behind. But actually, we've still got a lot of races to come. We don't know what upgrades Mercedes are going to bring through the rest of the season. And you only have to look at McLaren to see the upgrades that they've brought the past few races to see what a huge improvement it's made to them. Like, Lando is flying. So there is, I honestly don't know what more Mercedes are, what they've got going on back at the factory. No one, I don't think, does. They don't want us to know. But I don't think that they've given up on this season by any stretch. And I certainly don't think Lewis would even let them not focus on this season, because he wants another championship. Like you say, like, he wants to break that record, I'm sure. You don't race at the pinnacle of motorsport if you don't want to be winning. That's why George Russell wants to be in that car. He wants to be all of them. All of them want to be winning championships. I just think that, paired with what Red Bull have brought and tracks that suit their car, along with Max's driving, it has just excelled them. And it's exciting. Like, seeing Lewis and Max fighting at the front is exciting. Like, the past seasons, we've seen lots of action in the midfield and at the back of the pack, but at the front, Lewis has just run away with it. And yeah, like, Trey, as a Mercedes Lewis Hamilton fan, of course you're going to be happy to see that, but we know that not everyone is. Plenty of people aren't. And it gets boring. I'm always going to support the British drivers. I'm British myself. I want to see Lewis winning. I want to see Lando winning. I want to see George winning. But we also want to see exciting racing. And that's why Baku was so great, because even though Lewis crashed out, it was just a great race.
It was just so, it had everything that we wanted. We've been quite lucky to have a very, very impressive couple of races this season. All the points are up for grabs. Just imagine what those points for Lewis could have done for the championship if he had held it together in that race. And of course, there are points for grab even at the sprint race at Silverstone. With the new format, just reading it off here, practice 1 will kick off 2 p.m. On the Friday, and qualifying for the main Sunday race will happen around 5 o'clock on that Friday. And of course, when we go into Saturday, that is where we're going to have the sprint race season. Of course, W Series would be in and amongst that.
Well, they don't actually, Matthew, want to call it a sprint race. They want to call it sprint qualifying. They don't want it to be a race.
It's fascinating.
Racing, but I know the wording which they want to get away from.
Exactly. And it's interesting because even with points up for grabs, 3 for first place, 2 for second place, 1 for third place. Also, warning to hay fever sufferers. Apparently, the old school reefs are coming back to commemorate whoever finishes for our sprint qualifying. So that's something that I read this morning on Autosport. Who knows what I've got a fly attacking me, which is perfect. And it's kind of, you can't go, mate. You're not coming. Not a +1, mate. But this is it. It's interesting that, it's great. A little bit of tradition with new Don't know what a modern twist would be. Maybe it's made out of metal rather than plant. So warning. But nevertheless, Melissa, I think this adds to the spectacle of a Saturday. I think fans are going to get behind this.
Yeah, I am curious to see how prepared the drivers will feel for qualifying on the Friday, considering they would have only had the one session, because obviously normally going into qualifying, they've had 3 practice sessions. So that's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, those who have driven on around Silverstone plenty of times, it's not going to be too bad. But yeah, you just wonder how they're going to feel with car setup and all of that. If they're going to be conservative on the Saturday with the sprint qualifying, because, I think for those at the back of the pack, they've got nothing to lose, right? Like if you see George Russell in his Williams, like he can be all guns blazing. Whereas you wonder whether Lewis and Max are going to be more conservative around the front, because heaven forbid they don't end up in the top 5 or anything for the race on Sunday. So I'm as intrigued as anyone to see how it's going to work and what it's going to do. I think it's great for fans though, because it does give them more to see on the Friday and Saturday. Because you can go to these weekends sometimes, and Friday there's not a lot to see really. And there's a couple of practice sessions, but there's not much necessarily going on in those that's exciting. So qualifying on the Friday, a sprint qualifying on the Saturday. I'm excited.
And we got on the topic of the British, Dre, we have as Melissa brought up before we got on air, rumors of where we're going to see George Russell. Where would you, if you were to fantasy book your next season in this new era, which is soon to be revealed, where would you like George Russell to be? Where would you like Valtteri Bottas to be?
He's lined this up for me because he knows exactly what I'm going to say. Valtteri, thank you for your efforts and your time. It's time to go.
Oh,
George Russell's time from next season. Matthew's lined this up for me properly because he knows exactly where I feel about Valtteri. We need some. As I said, like as fans of the sport, even if you're rooting for a team, you need them there to be. That injection that Sergio Perez has actually given Red Bull, where there's a competent number 2, or wouldn't even call him number 2. There's a competent co-racer there who would actually, if given the chance, he would, if he's up against Max, he'll take Max's spot easily. I think you need that. My favorite season, maybe not everyone else's, but when Rosberg actually won, because it was battling all the way in even. Obviously, it was in a team battle.
Hold on, you were happy that Lewis didn't win that year?
Big fan.
I was fine. You know what? Mercedes before everyone else, but I do want Russell to come in because I want George to come in because I think he's done his time, and then 2, I think that he showed in the opportunity that he got that he can actually go past people. He'll be a competent person to be able to help out with the battle against Red Bull. So I'm all for Mr. Russell joining next season.
Interesting. Melissa, how do you, from the airwaves and the whispers in the world of F1, how do you see this all panning out?
I mean, you say that you see Russell coming in to help Lewis, but I wonder how Lewis feels about it, because I think he is someone who probably does like having a number 2 driver in Valtteri. Those two I think they do get on okay. And, we've heard team orders and all of that. And as much as Valtteri's not happy about it, he does stick to them. I don't know how much George would do that. I don't know how much George would come into that team and want to be the number 2 driver. I think he's going to want to be the number 1 driver. And I don't think Lewis is going to like that. And I don't know. I haven't heard it from anyone. Like, this is just my own thinking. I wonder whether Lewis will want George in that car next year. George has proven himself. Obviously, we saw when Lewis came down with COVID and he stepped in that we know he's an amazing driver. He could have won that race. But that's the thing. Like, I wonder whether Lewis will have any say in.
I think that Lewis is a Hall of Fame driver, competitor. I think that George, if he's wise, would actually come in and actually want to learn from. I don't think Lewis is going to shy away from the competition from anyone personally, but I don't think. I think that it's shown in the last, definitely in the last Drive to Survive, when you see the inner thinkings of Valtteri, that he's not happy where he is. He's not happy being the number 2 driver. He was happy that Lewis didn't get the number 1 spot. He's not a team. I'm not saying he's not a team player, but I think that you can only be a team player for so long.
Yeah.
And I think that these 3 more years that we're going to have Lewis in the, colors of Mercedes, if George is there as well, he'll be wise to be able to, as well as compete, but learn from Lewis as well, because his time will come. He's only young. So I just don't think Lewis sees him as on his level. I think you have to prove that. Max has proved that, so far.
Yeah, I do think you're right that obviously he's not Lewis Hamilton level yet. He's very young, but he's an incredible driver. Even what he's doing in the Williams, like he pulled that thing to P11 in Austria, just missing out on a point. I was gutted for him, gutted. But I don't know. I also don't know where Valtteri could go if he's not in that. Like, once you've been in a Mercedes, it's like, where do you go on the grid? Like, it is essentially a demotion, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we saw, you'd say that about Ferrari, but obviously we've seen Vettel go to Aston Martin, but Aston Martin's got a great name within the sport, and he ended up on the podium. So
sometimes you might want to feel like the number 1 driver, or you might want to feel important. You remember, Matt, you remember in the Drive to Survive series, when he got a podium, or he literally there was no one there to welcome him, and it's that type of stuff that it gets to a point where it's like, all right, enough now. I need to go somewhere else where I'm the loved. Yeah, I'm loved. They don't. I'm not saying Mercedes don't care about him, but Lewis is the person who they care about. Is the alpha male, top dog, and I don't think he has to call a shot to say any team orders. I don't want this person to compete against me. Yeah, I don't know if you agree, Matt, but I think it'll be healthy to be able to get a new driver in Mercedes.
I just think from being around Valtteri and having worked with him around over, away from the circuit in Monaco, I just think that's just down to his personality. He's a very low-key kind of guy. When we were doing work with him and Bose, it was literally him and his trainer, and that was it for the shoot. He didn't have loads of razzmatazz. He didn't have loads. Oh, I think there was like a brand manager there for Bose who we were working with, and that was it. And I just think like I would like to be the same. I think sometimes I don't get the idea, and I don't think Lewis does it, but I think to be a superstar, you have to have a team. And I think Valtteri's ego doesn't necessarily need that. So I don't read into it and think like, oh gosh, poor Valtteri, no one's greeting him on the back of wins. I think it is, but also just remember, this is Drive to Survive, this is drama, this is documentary. So you have to remember, like, we're here to paint a picture. Think of all the moments that have happened already this season, and they're gonna, not that it's unfactual, but at the end of the day, it's part of the drama and the entertainment. But nevertheless, George Russell, he doesn't, if he does make the change, he doesn't need a transitional kind of season. When in Bahrain, he got very comfortably into the Mercedes, and Lewis was away. So it's all up for grabs. I don't agree with Melissa. Where can Valtteri go? It would be almost too underwhelming for a driver to make the drop and change for like a Williams and do a swap. I think more, I would maybe, depends how much he loves it. Does he want to try something else? You see what Grosjean and Magnussen is doing. And I think Valtteri will be okay with that. Like, he's a sport lover. So I don't think it'll be the be all end all if he isn't in F1.
Team cycling with his
exactly.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
Well into his cycling now. So that'll be
interesting. He's got his partner is an absolute, beast professionally at cycling. So there's so many opportunities. You've seen it in tennis, or our champion, Ashley Barty was from a cricketer and now is a 2 Grand Slam winner, now winning Wimbledon. So
The
it can
talent,
happen.
the talent is ridiculous. Of these sports, people like, we cannot take it for granted. Like, yeah, like you say, some of them don't just excel in one sport, they excel in so many others. And even the drivers, they can go to other series. You look at Grosjean, like how amazingly he's doing. Like, I think it's just, I never underestimate their skill. I'm so in awe of them. I just think it's amazing. But we know we're not getting a decision this weekend at Silverstone. George has made it clear that we will not be hearing anything about his future Mercedes this weekend. So we all continue to wait.
It is strictly all business. And one of our final kind of hot topics on this episode of Alt F1, we've been really happy and super excited. We've waited patiently for over a year. W Series has made its return, and W Series, part of the F1 calendar, which genuinely, I've been very lucky to have been in many F1 races now. Not to say I'm not excited for, seeing a bit of sprint qualifying and all the good shenanigans of Silverstone. I'm genuinely super excited to get down and see the awesome roster of W Series get down, and also the boys and girls that are making the whole thing tick over. Dre, thoughts on, we've seen how already so far W Series has been, well, we've had two different winners already with Sarah Powell and Jamie Chadwick winning the second race in Austria. How do you feel about all of this going down this weekend on a home race?
I'm excited to actually see in person, because obviously we've been rooting for and promoting W Series on Verge Alt F1 for a long time now. So it'll be interesting to be able to see the actual, well, luckily actually at Goodwood I got to see Jamie and drive past as well. So that was amazing to be able to see. I'm really, really excited about experiencing it for the first time. We're big advocates here. I'm a big Jamie Chadwick fan. Obviously, shout out to everyone else that we've spoken to. It'd just be great to be able to see, these amazing qualified drivers to be on the same stage with the men as they should be. Fair treatment.
Yeah,
Vanessa, we're so lucky, aren't we? We're just getting spoilt now with just fantastic drivers and racers and more personalities to add to the mix. And it feels like it's such a great time to be a part of motorsport. The changing face of motorsport, it just keeps on growing.
Yeah, I went to, obviously it wasn't last year, it must have been the year before now, the final of the W Series. And it was just, it's amazing to see those women. It made me so happy. Like, I'm always going to champion women to be the best they can be. And honestly, it fills me with so much pride to see them. And like you say, Dre, Jamie's an incredible driver. And we saw her in the Williams. She got to drive the Williams at Goodwood, I think it was. And like, that just makes you so happy, because these are the steps forward that we want and that we need. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing W Series at Silverstone. I really hope it brings it to that bigger stage that it needs, so people are seeing, like, these girls can drive. There's a reason why the F1 teams are having them as reserve drivers now, because they're showing that they're made of the stuff that's needed. And I really hope it isn't too long until we see them actually racing in F1. It's so long overdue. Like, put Jamie in at Williams. If George gets that seat, like, let's see what Jamie can do. Like,
what is this? What is this, Alicia Williams? And I think it will just elevate. Just, I don't want to look at it from a business standpoint, but just what it would do for Williams as a whole, as a brand, it would just be incredible. And for Jamie, rightly deserves her shot, as do many of the other ladies on that roster, because what will happen eventually, you have to look at how well and how capable and how quickly they're all learning to drive on these circuits. So, there's a lot of them have that people that haven't been following W Series, and some of the ladies we have been interviewing have got a whole wealth of experience in the world of motorsport, karting. Some of it is in their bloodline. And there are some that have maybe less experience than compared to an F2 and F3 racer, and they're getting a grip of it. So it just shows the amount of talent that's going on here. The potential is absolutely unlimited. And like you said, we're just excited. I mean, shout out to Catherine and the wider team that have completely, risen it. And look at all the brands that are getting on board, being printed and sponsored. We have team names now, which is incredible for W Series. So kudos to all of them. Kudos to Ross Brawn and F1 for making it happen, because that is what it is. If you want to grow a sport and grow an industry, they're absolutely, you know, with all the fears that people might have had a year or two ago, absolutely is moving in the right direction. But as we ride off into the sunset, boys and girls, how the hell is this season going to end? Where are we going to end up? We're going to start it off with you, Dre. How do you picture this season? As at the moment, pre-British Grand Prix, it is advantage Max in the championship. Points up for grab on 2 days. But is it Max's Silverstone race? And will that be one of the penultimate nails in the coffin as far as Lewis's championship title? A lot of races left to go, but trending wise.
Yeah, based off of current form, I'm saying this in complete hope rather than an actual prediction. I'm hoping that it's Lewis's home race. You know how much it means to him. He loves performing for the Silverstone crowd. It is big pressure on the team to actually make sure that everything is right, so therefore they can actually get a victory or at least compete to the end. You cannot have Max running away with this one, not at his home race. So it's time to be able to get back on the front foot, make a statement, draw off that energy of the crowd. We'll be rooting for all the British fans will be rooting for Lewis. And, fingers crossed Mercedes win.
Well, it could be an absolute sporting disaster if Lewis doesn't win, in my eyes, having seen Conor McGregor lose at UFC with a broken leg. Then the next day, England use the Euros. And then if Lewis doesn't bring it home on his home soil, it could be an absolute nightmare. Melissa, say it ain't so. Are we optimistic for one, Silverstone and Lewis, and also how the wider season will pan out as far as championship?
I mean, let's not neglect the fact that Lewis will have the home advantage and have the home crowd behind him. And
didn't work for England at football, Melissa. Didn't work.
F1, Matt. This is F1. And I think the atmosphere and the fact that we have fans at the race, that's, I didn't have that in Baku. Like, I've been to Silverstone for years as a fan, and that atmosphere there, the cheers for the British drivers, like that gives them the extra push. I truly believe, I do think Lewis can pull something out of the bag for Silverstone. However, for the wider championship,
Where's this going? Where's this going?
I think it's Max. It's got to be Max.
I do think Max may take it this year, but we can't deny him that if he does. Like, he's driven phenomenally so far. And Red Bull, let's not, give them the credit that they deserve. Like, they have really put the hard work in to be a top team again. Like, they slipped down and they are right back up there. So we can't deny Max that if he takes this championship. I do feel that he could this year. And if he does, I think it will genuinely give Lewis that push and that drive again for next year. We've got the 2022 car launch coming as well at Silverstone. And I'm as excited as anyone to see what that's going to be like. All the drivers will be seeing it as well for the first time. And so, that's a whole new era next year. So let's just see, in this hybrid era, Mercedes have dominated. If Max and Red Bull take it, I wouldn't hate it. Just for
I see what's going on here. I see what's going on here, Matt. Melissa is trying to make sure for future parties in Monaco and Miami next year that she's invited to all of them. So therefore, with that being said, I too am hoping for the best winner, the best person to win. Red Bull, if you want to invite us to anything, I'll root for you too.
Oh,
Takes one to know one, doesn't it? Yeah, that's
I see what you're up to, Melissa.
Well, look, we've got to manifest it. It's all about willing it on. We've got to manifest all these great opportunities.
You say that about manifesting it. I look back and I will post it on my Insta stories from when I was at Silverstone for the last race. I was in 2019. And I had a story as I was walking past the paddock, and I wrote on there, and it said, "Aim for next year, be in here." And guess where I'm going to be this for the next race? Like, I do believe in manifesting it. I do believe that dreams can come true. And yeah, like it's crazy. So let's just manifest that we're all going to be in Miami.
Absolutely.
And
See
you know
there.
what? I'll just say this, like, you know, on behalf of me and Matt, like, you know, the energy that you've given as a fan, you know, obviously we spoke to you just before you got chosen to go on there, but you actually, it's what I love about your presenting style when you're actually at the circuit is that you obviously speak for all fans who don't get to go to these things. You know, you don't take any of these things for granted. Like, as I said, you know, when you guys said about washing the tires or all these things that we you know, that people who've been doing this for a long period of time take it for granted. Like when a driver just walks past you, just like, oh my God, those types of things. And this is what the beautiful thing about you actually getting to over that line is. That's what we want to convey to other people, that, you know, Melissa's doing this, you know, you can do this too in the future. Yeah, and it's bringing new people involved in it. So, you know, salute to you for getting on that. And also big up to you for, you know, I know your schedule's ridiculous, still making time.
Not being too big for us. She's here again.
Me and him. You know, you haven't gone big time on us, and I appreciate that.
I know that it was a struggle trying to fit it in, but I'm glad that I did. I will always be happy to speak to you guys because you've been very supportive, and and like you say, Dre, I hope I do carry on, you know, being that fan in the paddock and having that excitement and bringing it to screen, because I genuinely feel that way. I can't wait until we don't have to wear masks on screen. We still will have to this weekend, but you will see my smile beaming from ear to ear, and I hope that never goes away, because it is, like I said, a dream come true to be there and to be representing a fan in the paddock, you know, and we can't take these things for granted, because as quickly as they can go. So I'm gonna love every single second of it.
And so you should. It's been an incredible journey. I'm going to take my phone off Do Not Disturb mode and just stare at it. I'm going to manifest. Come on, F1, call me. Give us a call. Me and Dre, come on, bring it in. You never know. But regardless, we're all going to be there at Silverstone. We are super excited to see what's going down. Melissa will be there. Myself and Dre will be there. Hopefully, Lewis brings it home. Hopefully, Lando has an awesome weekend as well. Good luck, Max.
Finally gets that point. If George can get his first point at Silverstone, a great thing that will be too. I will. That's another thing to manifest. We gotta get the George. We were so close in the last race. God damn you, Alonso, for you know, being a flipping world champion and racing pretty good. Not bad, so at least that's something, right?
Exactly. But, you know, we've got to be hopeful. It could be an awesome weekend for all British racers. Let's hope we all sweep it, get the hat trick. If not, it's a great English disaster of sports. So nevertheless, this is the Alternative F1 podcast. I'm Matthew Connell. That's Andre Dixon. That's Melissa Nathoo. Thank you all for joining us, and we should all see you next time, hopefully, at Silverstone.